I want to give them what for back. They don't want the referees. I would speak to Ronaldo and Messi like I would a grassroots player. It was that nervous. I was that nervous.
Today, I've got one Premier League referee ready to go up against 20 football fans.
Oh, no.
Mark Clattenburg was a Premier League, Champions League and international referee for 13 years. And today, he will go up against 20 football fans in 4 debates. Fans will have to be first to the chair in order to debate Mark, and if the majority feel like the person debating isn't doing a good enough job, they can raise their yellow card and I will send them off. They'll then be replaced by another fan until our 10 minutes is up. And once we're done, we're done.
Where do I go with VAR? I hate it.
What do we think then? Are you guys fans of VAR? If you are, sounds like you might have a few. Yeah, you might.
For a referee to get a round of applause, I'm happy.
That is good.
I'm happy.
Okay then, guys. If anybody likes VAR and wants to debate it, please step forward. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Brighton versus Mark Clattenburg. Why do you like VAR?
I just think it's the people using it, really. It's a good idea. And you look at it at the World Cup, you look at it in the Euros, everywhere else but England, it's totally sound. I just, something doesn't add up there.
The only thing is, you're right, but the problem you've got is football is probably one of the only sports where the decision's subjective. So what you think's a penalty, the referees don't, and other people will debate it. So that's where VAR falls down for me. I think VAR should only be used for factual decisions. Offside, ball out of play, and any clear infringement that starts outside and ends up inside. They're the only ones that are not subjective. But what you think's a foul, I don't always believe it is.
Yeah, but then it comes back to the handball rule, for example. Just there has to be some clear rule that everyone agrees to.
There is.
And
there is, but nobody believes it.
But
Nobody
the
accepts
consistency is nowhere near where it should be. There's no consistency whatsoever.
Yeah, and what I dislike about VAR, should I say, is when a player scores a goal, he goes off and says, I want the passion back. I want a player when he scores a goal to go and rip his shirt off and go and celebrate in the crowd. We've lost all of that wonderful moment when they score. What would you say? What you would want VAR improved? How?
Just some consistency, really, with the people. Because again, you look at all the other countries, you look at the competitions, Champions League, Europa League, World Cup.
Yeah, but they're the best match officials in the world. You've got one or two English
guys.
But
if this is the Premier League, then why do we not have the very best?
Because the problem is you've got a lack of numbers. When I was a referee in the Premier League, there was 24 referees. Now we've only got something like, 14 or 16? And now you're increasing that to be VARs. So what they're doing is they're bringing referees in from the Championship to act as VARs, and we all know what VAR does now. It runs the football. The referee's got no power anymore. The VAR's got the power.
Yeah, for sure. But again, going back to why can't we pull these officials from abroad? I know we got that one Aussie bloke, but he's useless. Isn't he? Jared Gillett is useless.
So what, he's upset Brighton many times?
He has indeed, yeah. But yeah, why? I don't get it. Why can we not, attract Premier League or standard referees,
Yeah, but I think what we need to do is go back to basics and...
Nope. Well done, Matt. Well done. What do you think
mate.
of my whistle skills there?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
bad.
Thank you. And the outfit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you have worn this?
No.
No. Okay. Matt, you're off, my friend. We need another one. In 3, 2, 1 to debate the good of VAR. Go. Oh wow. Okay,
Whoa.
Luca.
What shirt's this, by the way?
Juventus.
Yeah.
So, Mark, would you say you would abolish it right now then, VAR, if you had the option?
I wouldn't abolish it.
You wouldn't abolish it, okay.
I would put it back to basics. And we all have goal line technology, which works perfect, except that one game straight after COVID, which was Aston Villa, Sheffield United, where there was a glitch in the system. Yeah. But in reality, it does work for factual decisions. The issue is, 1 week, one team gets punished for a foul inside the box, and the week after, nothing happens. You saw headbutts, and you have forearm smashes in people's faces. 1 week, the VAR sends the referee to the on-field monitor. The week after, it doesn't happen. And I feel that there's so many inconsistencies. So if you only have it for ball out of play, incorrect decision. Wait, no, I'm talking about factual decisions. Offside. Then that's easy to debate. It's factual. Even if we've got 1 millimetre offside, it's offside.
So what about red cards? You would leave that?
We'll let the referee deal with it.
Yeah.
Like when I was a referee in the Premier League all them years ago, I might have made a mistake once in every handful of games, but I had the control. I made sure I was the referee. I didn't want to make a mistake. I didn't have any help. I believe now the referees are just not making decisions, and then they're relying on the VAR, who sometimes doesn't even give a decision. So therefore, that's where the inconsistencies lie, and that's where everybody's frustrated with. You're frustrated. I'm frustrated week in, week out, with the inconsistencies, where you wouldn't have inconsistency if you stripped it back to basics.
I get what you're saying, but also when it comes to like red card decisions, for example, I'm sure obviously you refereed so many games. Like the speed is like 100 miles per hour. Sometimes you make a mistake. Sometimes you need almost CCTV to be able to like justify either the decision that you gave the red card or reevaluate and make the correct decision if you didn't give the red card. So do you not think it can also be useful in those situations where, say, you didn't send a player off, but in reality you look back on it, could have been a red card, then you can go check the monitor, see, actually, I did make a mistake, give the correct decision.
But the game's moved on so much. We had maybe a handful of cameras, maybe 10, 20 cameras. Now we've got 40 cameras.
So you're thinking the angles almost skew
angles kill the referees, but also they use slow motion. They've got Ultra HD, so it's shown the most perfect thing. And that's not reality. That's not a reality for a referee. What they see out there to eyes isn't always what you see.
Yeah.
On the camera, and I think now the other side of what the frustration is, referees were allowed to make mistakes. Now they're not, because they think the system is absolutely perfect. It's not, and I don't like when you see challenges. Players don't go to hurt each other anymore. They used to. Probably there was one or two players you could easily name over the years that went in with tackles with the studs. Now you don't see it. You see genuine tackles for the ball just late, and they don't go to really injure the player, but there's a criteria put in place and the referees try and read that criteria, but that's where the inconsistency lies. One week they say, well, there's not enough speed. The next week they say, well, there is enough speed, but we get frustrated.
Also, at the same time, there's also, you said there's a lot of angles in football when it comes to these sort of decisions. Sometimes there's a lack of angles. For example, I'll give an example. This isn't related to the Premier League, but a couple of seasons ago in the Serie A, Juventus played Salernitana and we had a goal chalked off when it was deemed offside. But after the game, there was another angle that came out when the goal, in reality, was onside. And they just didn't have the footage to show that. You've
got to be careful with offsides, because I guarantee you over the last 20 years, there's been so many goals incorrectly given. Because what your reality is, what you see normally on a match, you think, well, that's offside or that's onside. But when you actually draw the lines and the perfect angles, you think, that never looks it, but it was, because the technology is that perfect when it comes to offside. Our eyes on, because you also got the camera is probably on the 18-yard line. The offsides are mostly inside the penalty area, so you get a distorted angle to what you see. So what we saw over the years hasn't really happened. We used to accept it on Match of the Day when there was a tight offside. Oh, the system will give the benefit of the doubt. You can't have benefit of the doubt anymore because of this factual decision.
But I think that's important, though.
For me, I think offside is offside.
Yeah.
Like the ball over the line. You can't have an argument and say, well, you know what, 1 millimetre, should we go 5 centimetres to give the benefit of the doubt to the attacker? So what, we'll give 5 centimetres over the goal line when the ball's crossed the line to suit who? You know, if it's offside, it's offside. If it's
offside. At the end of the day, it's black and white. Offside's offside. Yeah. Even in the Champions League final you refed in 2016, the Ramos header was offside, for example.
Thanks for
no, it's not your fault. No, I'm not saying it's your fault, of course.
That bloody assistant.
But that obviously
wasn't your job.
That wasn't actually you. It was a line, though. Yeah. But I'm saying in general that if VAR was implemented back then, for example, that final could have been completely different. Atletico might have gone on to win it. So I'm thinking, in terms of like VAR, in your original statement when you said it was bad, I think it's been misused in certain ways, and I understand your argument about certain decisions, and some things are black and white, some things are more subjective, which I completely understand. But I think the overall statement that VAR is completely bad, I think is a little bit harsh.
No, I never said as it is at the moment, in its current state, it's bad.
Okay.
And I think it can work. Technology can work in sport, but while we've got so many subjective decisions, we saw it, I think, in rugby union. It's worked perfectly. But we've got so many factual decisions. There's nothing really subjective. The only thing that is subjective, which I love, when everybody communicates together, the referee and the VAR communicate together. You don't see that in football. They go to a screen and 99.99999% the referee's going to go with the
before they tell them.
Yeah, and that's what's bizarre, because the other thing that I dislike with VAR, when you see the on-field review, the VAR's guiding the referee with only the angles he wants to show. For me, they should show it in real time. then show different angles. And then if the referee saw something on the field and he didn't think the intensity was high, he didn't think the player was going in, then he should stick with these decisions. But I don't like VAR when it comes to decisions where they're trying to change the referee's mind, and you think, well, that was never handball, that was never a penalty. And again, week in, week out, I saw one, for example, Newcastle-Arsenal, sorry.
Yeah, the penalty not given to Newcastle.
For me, for Arsenal, and I'm a Newcastle fan, and I think Nick Pope, one week Martin, the goalkeeper, Sanchez was sent off for Chelsea against United. The week after, the same ruffling, you're never going to get exactly the same situation. But
keep the same energy for both situations.
Keep consistency. But every time I always find the refereeing world, if they've made it a really controversial call, they've always got to try and defend the referees. But then, week in, week out, we're all confused. And we shouldn't have any confusion. We should be thinking, you know what, if that's a penalty, most weeks it's going to be given as a penalty. Yeah, you'll have an odd mistake, but we're seeing more and more mistakes.
Okay, just a couple of seconds left. Luca, well debated. That's 10 yellow cards. Does anybody want to quickly jump up and face VAR? 3, 2, 1. Go ahead. We can be quicker, guys. Come on, I want to see.
Get some energy.
I want Mark to be judging whether it's a foul or not.
A bit of a cheat code sitting there, though.
Yeah, fair. Go ahead, mate. We haven't got too long left.
Okay, I appreciate the point on VAR, but do you not think the standard of refereeing comes into it as well?
Yeah, but of course it is. And that comes to a lack of training, development. I think what your issue you've got is when the Premier League was first formed, they got the best referees out of the Championship, the Football League. So the Football League was the best teams came into the Premier League, the best referees came into the Premier League. And over the years, I remember when I first got on the Premier League in 2004, I was the 24th referee that had all of the quality, Paul, Barber, Dirk, all of these top referees. All these quality referees have left and they've never been replaced.
That is 10 minutes done. Well done, guys. Well done. Some really good debating in that. You know what's mad? Is I thought the foul for Gyökeres going through on Nick Pope wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, there you go. And I'm a Geordian, I think it was.
Just before we move on to our next debate, if you guys haven't done it already, subscribe to the channel. Go down there, press the big red button and subscribe.
Should referees be banned for poor performance? I believe that referees shouldn't be banned if they make mistakes.
Okay, guys. 3, 2, 1. Hello, Mark.
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome. Here we go.
Well, we've won the FA Cup, so I've forgiven you for 2016.
Oh, no. We're going to come back to you later on, I'm telling you.
Yes, I mean, any line of work, even if we just stick with football, when players play badly, they are dropped. When referees make bad decisions, I feel like that's a massive thing for why the standard in the Premier League is not great, because the refs can make mistakes, they can do badly, and they just keep their jobs. They still play the next game, still ref the next game. I just think that...
I think let's take football as a point. Most players, if a centre forward misses an open goal, probably he'll be playing the following week, unless he has 3, 4, 5 stinking performances and doesn't score and doesn't get a game, or he'll be on the bench. The problem everybody's fix with refereeing is because we're all passionate about with teams. If you make a mistake in an office, and I was an estimating manager many years ago before refereeing in the electrical and mechanical world, and I made a mistake on one of my estimates, but I could put it right. My family didn't know about it, so I could put it right without any issues. But I wasn't punished, I wasn't sacked. But all of a sudden, we want referees to be punished and sacked because they make one mistake, or they make 2 mistakes, or they make 3 mistakes.
I don't think it's sacked. I think obviously that would just be ridiculously extreme. But I think, I know that refs do sometimes get put down to Championship, maybe Championship to League One if they have bad performances.
And they complain. They don't want the referees.
But if anything, but this is the thing. But then you're almost punishing the teams in the lower division. So the ref wasn't good enough for the Premier League, so we're going to give him to the Championship. I just think, I don't necessarily think they should be sacked. I think the best thing that refs could do, to be honest, and the best thing that could happen for refereeing in the game is that referees come out after the games and have post-match interviews.
Oof.
I just think that's such a good idea, and you can instantly take accountability. You've made a mistake. You can come out and say, yeah, I saw it this way. I understand it was the wrong decision. Instantly, I think that alleviates 90% of kind of the abuse, the pressure that the referees get after the game.
I think I'm not bothered about, I don't want to do it afterwards. I've tried it and it didn't work. I remember doing an interview with Birmingham after the something controversial happened with Manchester United, and the journalists just ripped us to shreds. It was like negative. Even if I said I'd made a mistake, it was like you shouldn't be admitting that you've made a mistake. But I get your point. But I would prefer that when the referees speak, and they speak with the VAR, I would prefer that they do it in the open, like we see in rugby union. And if you could hear in the stadium and on the TV what the referee and the VAR were discussing, then what's your issue? And I think, I don't want to have every conversation televised, because if I'm speaking with a captain and the captain's giving me what for, I want to give him what for back.
Of course,
you don't really want to hear that, and that's what should stay on the field. But when it comes to decisions and why I made a decision, so if I haven't given a handball, for example, and it's controversial, I'm not talking about one where it's a half-hearted appeal. I'm talking about one that's really, really debated. Why shouldn't the referee just open his mic up 10 seconds?
Yeah, but who has the power to do that, though?
Well, we haven't got that power at the moment till we move forward with, because IFAB and FIFA control at the moment what referees and match officials can say and what can be televised. At the moment, we're still at the very early stage, because at the point, VAR with the referees' communications was always, the worry is what were they going to say, how professional they were going to be. Now, when I listen to them, they're very professional. I think we're now at that next stage to allow everybody to listen what's being said. And I think once you listen to what's being said, I think we'll end up being less frustrated. We'll not agree with it, but at least you'll understand.
Yeah, you understand.
But I don't like at the moment when they press the button and they try and say, I give a red card because the player was given.
Well, they're just repeating.
Correct.
Yeah, players number 16.
I would rather
Newcastle,
be human. I would rather be human about it and say, look, the player's arm was up. He's used his elbow and he had a clenched fist. He's used some power, and therefore I believe that this challenge deserves a red card.
So it's a question of when IFAB and FIFA allow that to happen. Because I genuinely think that the second that happens, if not post-match interviews or just speaking about decisions you've made, that's probably
we'll leave them to pundits. I prefer pundits to debate my performance. I don't want to be allowing me to open up what I've done on the field of play. At the end of the day, I can't change my decision. But like going back to what the original argument was, everybody else in the walks of life can change at their workplace mistakes. But also what the hardest thing for referees is, and that's people don't understand it, our decisions are worldwide and very subjective by everybody. Even if I know I'm right, you still got people who think I'm wrong, because everybody's got an opinion, but it doesn't affect your family. You can make a mistake in your employment and nobody knows. Your wife doesn't know, your children don't know. When I made a mistake, the family knew about it because it was in the papers, it was on social media, it was everything about it.
But then do you not think that if you were not to be, I think punished is the wrong word, but if you were to kind of take a referee that's say you've made an awful mistake, Champions League final, whatever it is, if you were then just not punished, but
punish them with money, punish them with money,
but or just because even that, just have a base level. And
well, like a player can miss an open goal and doesn't get, so he's on 150,000 a week. He gets a goal bonus. He gets a goal bonus, but he never gets a bonus deduction for missing an open goal. I think referees, they've got a bonus scheme in place, and it's based on performance. So if a referee doesn't meet the criteria, he doesn't get a bonus at the end of the year, and that affects you, because at the end of the day, you go to work to earn money, and the more money you earn, the better things become. So I always feel referees never want to make mistakes. I just feel that the group of referees at the moment in the Premier League are weaker. They've got a lot of youth and they don't understand the game.
So why don't we just go and get them? Someone said it earlier, but why not go and get them from other leagues?
It's
big another debate
there. Well done, well debated, guys. Well debated. Got a few more minutes left to jump in over whether referees should get banned for wrong decisions. 3, 2, 1. Okay, Mez, welcome.
No,
welcome.
You can have Isaac.
Sorry about that.
Slightly different topic, though.
Slightly different.
But referees facing bans, what do you think, my friend?
I think ban is a bit too extreme, but I do feel like, in the Premier League how refs players, if they have 5 yellow cards, it leads to then a suspension for 1 game. I feel like when referees make bad decisions and they have like the refereeing body that would then assess and whatnot, if they have something similar to that where there's like 5 opportunities where you get your yellow cards and then suspension there.
Good point.
I think that would make the refereeing a bit better.
Yeah,
because they know there's a bit more jeopardy in.
But how do we define their mistakes? Because what they've got in the Premier League at the moment, they've got a board, so a panel sits every early part of the week, normally a Monday. They sit and they debate all of the refereeing decisions. So there's a ex-referee on, an ex-player, ex-coach. And I've saw them reports when I was working for Nottingham Forest. Yeah. And I didn't agree with some of the things. So what we probably as fans think are mistakes, the panel don't. But I believe, for example, Howard Webb came out recently, the head of refereeing, came out and criticised the VAR, which was Andy Madley. Andy Madley hasn't been seen since. So there is a punishment in place. But also you've got to understand that for example, some fixtures overlaps. You've got midweek fixtures and a Saturday fixtures or the weekend fixtures. When the appointments are done, they do 2 in one go. So the referees know where they're going for that week. But if they have a bad performance on a Wednesday, it's very difficult to then remove them for the week, because then it shows the world that you're punishing. And you can't punish everything. But what I don't like at the moment is there seems to be a lot of apologies from PG and Well to certain clubs.
Yes.
Like Fulham, which...
Josh King.
Listen, you can debate that. And I thought, at the time, I thought it was wrong. I thought it was wrong. Honestly, I thought it was wrong. However, I can make an argument why he was sent off, because the foot came down. It did stamp on him, but it had no speed. It didn't reach all the criteria for a red card. So for me, it wasn't a red card. But for the match, very subjective. But to apologise, but then, for example, Gabriel forearms the new side, Voltemada off the ball, and nothing happened. And for this is where the frustration lies. Where's the apology? Where's the apology to Newcastle United? But it was to Fulham. It feels like you shouldn't be apologising. We're in a world where referees are going to make mistakes.
Of course.
Players make mistakes. Yes. Coaches make mistakes. The problem we've got at the society now, when I was a referee, we were allowed to make mistakes. Now, the way society is, we can't make mistakes.
To be honest, I feel like during your time as well, especially when you were refereeing, there was certain referees, I don't want to say names, but Mike Dean.
Oh, Mike Dean.
Where it would seem he would make the game about him, right? And there was collective as fans from pretty much probably every single team here, every single fan sitting here would say that there was certain games where Mike Dean would make crazy decisions and it felt like nothing happened to him at all, and he'd just be back.
Well, when he celebrated for playing an advantage.
Like this, it's crazy. So that's why I think there should be a sort of system that fans can actually see, like the yellow card system. That okay, this guy's he's had an absolute stinker here, yellow card here. Next game, yellow card here. And if they're getting close to 5 yellow cards, then maybe.
But we've got.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Guys, well done. Really good. Really, really good.
Are referees intimidated by certain clubs? I don't believe referees are ever intimidated by clubs, players, managers, or spectators.
3, 2, 1.
No, I thought they would all get up there.
Jacob, welcome, my friend.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on this?
I don't think it's a purposeful intimidation. I think there's more of an unconscious bias, in my opinion. So, like, for example, Burnley play at Old Trafford against Manchester United. If a referee makes a bad decision, you've got maybe, at a push, 50,000 Burnley fans who will be upset by that, be angry at it. Like we saw when Lau Foster that was the offside, that was very, very subjective, whether it was actually offside. Then, if Manchester United, the decision go against them, you've got what? You're probably pushing 1 billion people who are going to be sending this abuse at this person. Like, you're pushing.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. So I feel like I'm not necessarily saying that you purposely go out and go, right, if this 50-50 decision, I'm going to give it to Manchester United. But more so, in the back of your mind, that's always going to be a thing, I'm going to get abused, my family are going to get abused if I go against them.
Everybody has that same perception, smaller clubs, big clubs. But when you referee that you want to get everything right. The issue you've got when a big team and a little team play is that the little team have less of the ball. So it means you're chasing, you're going to foul more, you're going to have physical duels more, you're going to have more contacts. Man United are going to have more offsides, they're going to have more corners. It's just factual. When the big sides normally play the smaller sides in the Premier League, you have that scenario. So you're going to have a lot of subjective calls that you'll say, well, I don't believe it is. I don't believe that's a foul. I don't believe that's a foul. But you always, like, for example, one of the things when I was a referee, and that's why players liked us, even though the media hated us because they thought I was arrogant, they thought I dressed too well, I didn't have...
dressed too well.
With the boring...
Very good.
Because referees used to be like stereotyped, they had to have a tie a certain length. It was like ridiculous because everybody thought referees had to be boring. But I treat players exactly the same. I would speak to Ronaldo and Messi like I would a grassroots player because that's the respect they deserve. They're a football player. I would never pander to a big name player, and that's why teams used to think, the smaller teams when I used to referee them used to think that they had defenders. I didn't care when I was a referee, and that's why probably I got more criticism and people hated us more because I wasn't frightened to make the big call. I remember going at Man United via Liverpool some years ago, and I whistled 3 penalties at Old Trafford to Liverpool. If that was biased towards Old Trafford, that never happened. It never happened.
Would you ever see that? Would you ever see that for like Burnley going to Old Trafford? And we were toe to toe with them.
It wouldn't matter if I saw them calls. I don't care if it was Man United, Liverpool, Manchester City, or Tottenham, Arsenal, what Chelsea, whatever you do. I made the calls, and I wanted to get it right. I wanted to walk away from that stadium and go home and watch it back and think, wow, I got that one right. And I remember going to a match at West Brom, one of my last games in charge, before I left to Saudi, West Brom against Bournemouth, and I made 3 huge calls against West Brom, at West Brom, right? Forget the big team, little team. West Brom were bigger than Bournemouth at the time, probably position-wise. Tony Pulis was the coach. The crowd were at us. The coaches was at us. The players were at us, saying I'd got all of the decisions wrong. I went back home, watched them. I got all 3 right. The following week, I was 4th official at West Brom. All of them apologised because they'd realised what they'd seen on the pitch was different to what the reality was.
But I wasn't that you're one referee. Like you said, there's so many referees, and I feel like especially when you're looking at them ones that do come up from the Championship, do you not think there is that fear factor when you do go to an Anfield? And like you just said, that was West Brom. With all due respect to West Brom, going to West Brom and going to Old Trafford or Liverpool.
But I didn't care if it was.
That's you, and that's what I mean. That's you, and I don't think referees go into it going, I need to be a little bit more biased this way, but I feel naturally as a human, and you do it in everything, if there's more...
I think there's less pressure. If I'm refereeing the Manchester derby, for example, there's less pressure if I'm refereeing Burnley v Bournemouth, 100%. Why? Because the exposure, even on Match of the Day, you'll be last on Match of the Day. No disrespect.
No one cares. If you make 6 wrong decisions, no one's going to talk about it.
So they're only going to show 20 seconds of highlights, but I know they're going to debate everything I do in the big derby. So there is pressures. I used to love where I didn't have all the pressures. Sometimes I loved refereeing Burnley. Why? Because I could enjoy it more, because when you're refereeing the big games, I didn't enjoy them. I never enjoyed the Champions League final. I never enjoyed the Euro final because the pressure is so much. I remember walking out the Champions League final and all I cared about, right, wasn't the game, the 90 minutes. I was worried about dropping the ball off the plinth. I was that nervous. I was that nervous.
But do you not think that does play a part in a lot of referees' game? That will be going through their head. And there's some people who maybe aren't as experienced as you've been, and things like that, come up from like League One, the Championship, and bounce through the leagues, who are then sat there going, I'm away at Anfield. Liverpool have been maybe it's a 50-50 game against a Bournemouth or something like that. Semenyo goes down at box. It's in the 89th minute. Liverpool fans are screaming at him. Is there not a more? I feel for me, in the back of your head, you are going to be thinking.
But this is the problem with the fast track system.
Yeah, definitely.
Fast track.
100%.
I had 4 years in the Championship before I went into the Premier League at 25. I was 29 when I got in the Premier League, but I'd refereed big games in the Championship. Like, for example, our big game in the Championships was Ipswich-Norwich, which was huge.
Exactly.
You know, when you refereed them games, Wolves-West Brom, another big game in the Championship. So when they were playing in the Championship, I was ready. The problem you've got now, these young referees aren't ready, and probably some of them feel probably not scared, but they're slightly apprehensive when they go to Old Trafford because it's their first. I remember going to Old Trafford for the first time. And you know what happened? Mendes shot from the halfway line.
Okay, but well done, Jacob. You're off. Got a couple more minutes left. Brilliantly debated. Anybody else want to jump into the seat and debate about referees being intimidated?
Chelsea, friggin' hell. I was intimidated when I got bloody suspended.
Go ahead, my friend.
So something that kept coming up there was Old Trafford, and I just wanted to talk about Fergie. Obviously, used an example of when you went to Old Trafford, there's the 3 penalties given. Was that maybe a case if that was the year after he just left? So it was a bit of...
No, Fergie was it was so difficult.
Wasn't that the more... I thought
because what he used to do, right, and I used to, because I analysed football a lot, I could see a tactic happening. So Fergie would send a player in, sometimes Gary Neville, Rio Ferdinand, Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, whatever it was, they would send one player in, and they would like, that's a wrong decision, that's another wrong decision, and then he would send another player in, a different player. So it was systematically bang, and it wasn't about that decision because he knew no manager in the world thinks that they're going to ever change the referee's mind. because once the decision's made, It was about the next one and the next one, and they were using an intimidating tactic to try and get under your skin to get the next decision, that 1% that they thought they could get into your head. And I remember saying to Rio Ferdinand once, I said, Rio, go and tell your boss to stop fucking doing it. And he said, no, you go and tell him, because it was like they were scared of him as well.
But that's
you know,
got to be a factor for some other referees. I'm not saying just yourself, but as in,
I think
Ferguson, he got that.
he wasn't the worst. He wasn't the worst.
Really?
Yeah, Mourinho was
He was an innocent
clever.
man.
Mourinho was clever.
That's an innocent man, right?
An innocent man that goes when he's banned from the dressing room, comes in the kit, you know. But they all did it. They all wanted that. And I watch teams now, and it's all about that extra percent. You know, they analyse referees now a lot. The tactics of the referee, how many yellow cards he gives, what's his trait of his yellow cards, is it dissent or is he punished tackles more? There's so much data goes into clubs now than there've ever been. When I first was on the Premier League, that wouldn't have happened. Would have just turned up, it's Mark Clattenburg, he lets a game flow, you can speak to him, blah, blah, blah. Now the data that goes in, week out, is incredible because they're analysing every detail and they want to win. And I remember I had this conversation before where managers try and intimidate you at the team sheets to just stare at you, because they think that I'm going to be scared.
I think you said that about Klopp, was it?
Yeah,
was
because
like
he just stared at us at a team exchange.
But
And he never brought the team sheets in.
With Ferguson, though,
He never
I
came
get
in.
it as well, though. From a subconscious level, if you're a referee, you're going to want to work on the biggest stage. And like he'd ban journalists, etc. And it did feel like in those years, 2000s, I feel like every fan base, other than maybe Alice here, would say that United got some really dodgy stuff. I think you mentioned the Roy Carroll one. It's like...
That wasn't my fault at all.
No, that's the linesman on that one. But I kind of feel like the penny would usually fall that side more so than any other, but that might have been...
With Chelsea, look at what Chelsea did.
We never got anything, though.
But look what Chelsea did to me with Oba Mikel. You know,
Yeah, but
that
game,
situation, that situation there was intimidation. You know, they were trying to intimidate to say...
But that wasn't on the back of, I think, was it Torres was sent off when he got fouled by Johnny Evans going through and goal, and he should have been sent off.
Subject. That was one of me.
That
was one of me regrets. But in the real time, I thought he hadn't been fouled,
well,
but he got a little touch on his toenail, and he went down. Probably a clever referee, and probably one that was seeing the things a bit more different, would have just waved play on and not give a free kick, and we wouldn't have had a second yellow card. Hindsight's a great thing, but to be intimidated, what that club did, tried to intimidate me and the rest of the referees by making an accusation that wasn't true. And that's intimidation. Forget what Fergie did. Fergie was trying to intimidate referees probably to get the next decision. What Chelsea were doing was saying, we'll take the referees on by trying to say one of the referees had been racially abused a player. I would never racially abuse a player. I might swear at a player. I might have said something in the heat of the battle, but I would never use a racial comment.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that escalated. Obviously, I think over those years with the Overbow incident, and it was like.
But there's intimidation from everything. But it's not just.
Yeah.
It's not. Fans can do it. I remember Crystal Palace. I refereed Premier League when they won in the playoffs, and when I refereed them in the Premier League, they never won a game.
10 minutes done. 10 minutes done. I'm sure Palace might come up again a little bit later. Well debated, guys. Brilliantly done.
What do we think of the current handball law? I think at the moment it's inconsistent because a defender can be punished differently to an attacking player for the same type of offence.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Anybody feel the same? Okay, Joe, welcome to the stage. Fulham. Without further ado, my friend.
I think we talk all the time about like the clear and obvious handballs and being outside the body, but I feel like we never see a definition of what is outside the body. And the other day, like Fulham play Aston Villa, arms out here, but it's a natural position.
Yeah.
And I think it should either be defined as within the body line or, not a natural position.
The problem I've got is years ago, the word deliberate was in the law. And while the word deliberate was in the law, it created problems to referees because I could stop the game and go, by the way, to the player, did you really deliberately handle that ball? What would the player say? No, I didn't. So therefore, what was deliberate had to be taken out because you very rarely see a player deliberately handling the ball. I think what we need to accept is that when a ball strikes the arm, 99% of the time, it's going to be natural. I think defenders are always going to turn their body. I saw one 2 years ago, Paris Saint-Germain, Newcastle. Livramento got punished with a handball. If that's a handball, then I'm lost. Yeah. because that is just the ball coming up onto the arm. He's not trying to make his body bigger. He's not trying to gain an advantage by it. I think sometimes it just naturally hits the arm. I think because we've had so many inconsistencies over the last 12 months, 2 years, we're screaming every time, that's a handball, because the ball hits his arm. But if I look back at where we are in the Premier League to the rest of the world, I think we're quite good in the Premier League when it comes to handball. But what I hate about the law is why we've still got inconsistencies. If a defender accidentally handles the ball and clears it, we don't give a penalty. But an attacker accidentally handles the ball, and we saw one where it was a couple of weeks ago where he scored, and it might have been Glasgow Rangers in a European tie, and it might have hit here. And it was like nobody ever saw, it was impossible to see live. And I don't believe if you had VAR, we would have been debated. Everybody would have said it's a good goal. And I think sometimes we've got this problem where we've got all of these cameras and the VAR's frightened because he thinks, the TV companies or the media might show this like brush of the arm. I think we're losing the perspective of what the game is about. The game is about action, entertainment, and I feel that we're getting this stop-start, or the VARs are worrying about the slight touch of the arm. That's never a handball, and nobody wants it as a handball. When you're making the one that you're talking about with Fulham, that's not it's just that.
But
for
then
me,
you look back at the Chelsea game the week before, and Sessegnon's penalised for the exact
correct.
same thing.
That's the frustration,
yeah.
and I think if we go back to basics and say most of the night, the only ones that I want to see is where a player goes like that.
Yeah.
Like Thierry Henry handball all them years ago. That's it. I think we all agree that's a handball. That's not
pretty safely.
So there's other instances where a player, I think Luis Suarez touches one over the bar in a World Cup, quarter-final, semi-final. That's a handball. You know, when a player deliberately saves the ball from going in the goal, that's a handball. But I think if a player accidentally, like for example, touches him here and the ball's going towards the goal, the player, what can he do with his arms? You know, that's not a natural position, the arms behind the back. That's more than natural. So I think players should be able to defend with the arms. And if the player now, I used to see Luis Suarez do it. He was brilliant at it. He used to see the arm out and he used to kick the ball towards the arm. He was that good at it because he knew if the arm was slightly outstretched and the ball hit him, the referees would give a penalty, and he was clever at that. And players do that now. They're actually aiming for the arm. They're not aiming for the cross. They're just trying to hit that outstretched arm. And players are going to defend like this. You can't defend. You turn your body, you're not going to defend any other way. So the arm is coming away, and I don't believe we should be getting penalties for handballs unless a player really, really means to do it.
Yeah, you've nailed it.
Okay,
I
Joe,
agree anyway.
a bit of defeat, my friend. You're off. A few more minutes. Does anybody else want to come forward and debate the handball rule? 3, 2, 1.
Oh, got Arsenal.
You could have made that.
Was it Arsenal and Tottenham there?
Have
you just let Arsenal win again?
Okay.
You knew your place.
Rory, please, go ahead.
I don't disagree, but I do think the inconsistency that you talk about comes from a deeper issue, which is trying to change the rules to help VAR as a function. So possibly. I feel like we've changed it so that now, there's more factual elements to handball so that VAR can go, well, that's factual. So, for example, if a goal goes in, does it touch the attacker's arm in any way, shape or form? If yes, handball.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about justifiable position. That was the Matty Cash one. They changed it from a natural position to a justifiable.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
Was Gabriel's a handball at St James's Park?
I think yeah, probably. But
I agree.
that's exactly what I'm saying. I was going to use
so much there from.
You made a good point because I think the medal with the handball too many times. They're given, even though the law is quite the same how it's written, there's different interpretations. I know, for example, when I used to referee Spanish teams when I was in Champions League, every time the ball hit the arm, they won a penalty. In fact, in La Liga at that time, penalties were given more for handball because they just accepted that if the ball touched the arm, it was a penalty. But we had then UEFA's criteria. They were saying no penalty. Then you've got the Premier League have different criteria. Probably their line of intervention's a lot higher than around the world. FIFA have another different interpretation. So all of these competitions still have a different interpretation of what is a handball and not. And I think over the years they've meddled with it too many times. I think that it's easy. if the player go back to the deliberate side of it, if you believe that the player's deliberately handled the ball, if the referee's opinion, he's deliberately handled that ball in a way, then penalty should be given.
That's the thing. And with the Gabriel one, it's like they've made it so that, because it grazes his shin on the way up, so therefore it factually cannot be a penalty because it touches him.
So a defender flicks the ball, tries and clears it, the attacker's trying to get in, and it brushes his arm, and the ball goes a couple of metres in front, and the attacker scores. It's disallowed. But if the attacker goes to clear it, or touch the ball, and it accidentally hits the defender's arm, it's no handball. Yeah. But how do we have two separate situations? Yeah. I know why they brought it in, because they felt it was unfair that a player can score a goal from a handball, but handball isn't an offence unless all these criteria is in place. So why we're punishing it when the arms are natural? Yeah. We should, even if he scores a goal, that's life, you know? I think if we deem it not deliberate, or it's not a handball, then we shouldn't be worrying that the ball's just fractionally touched the arm. And going back to that point, if you have that point, it takes out the VAR. The VAR then doesn't have to get excited at Stockley Park and think, well, I've got to rewatch this. I've got to see if it brushes his arm, because the VAR would be looking at going, but nobody's appealing. The players don't think it's a handball or a deliberate handball. Let's move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we're not going to get 30 seconds of sitting around waiting, then thinking, well, you know what, has something really happened? And then you start examining it even more. I think we've complicated it too much. I think we've complicated handball to a point where we've opened up so many problems. And you're right, I think because now we've got this technology in place, the VAR is looking at it more, where the referee would just debate it and just go, let's move on, and the game restarts and everybody accepts it.
Yeah. No, I think we agree. I'll let Ben jump in.
Okay, Ben, go on then. Get yourself...
My point was going to be about the different laws in...
Yeah, go on, come in.
Well, he said to Mike, and I might be able to pick it up this time.
Well, I was going to ask that about UEFA laws versus laws in the Premier League, because we've all had, like you mentioned, the Livramento one, different decisions go against your club that wouldn't go against you in the Premier League. We just know that. We've all had that lived experience. We had it with Moussa Sissoko in the Champions League final, where there'd probably be a lot of referees that can see what Mane has kind of done to deliberately do that, knowing that then it's hit his kind of shoulder then on the way down to his arm. Whereas you say, like in other competitions and with other leagues, they'd go handball for anything. They'd kind of appeal for everything. So why is that the case?
The issue is that every federation and every league around the world has their own thoughts of how they want the league to run. And when I was in the Premier League, the focus was on entertainment. Not that referees didn't turn a blind eye, but they wanted the game to flow. They wanted it exciting. They wanted more playing time. They wanted a lot of excitement. I remember refereeing the Battle of the Bridge. Yeah. You know, that infamous game. And the drama that brought from an entertainment factor was dynamite. Yeah. I could have destroyed Tottenham.
Well, no one got sent off in that game. Somehow.
I could have destroyed the game. I could have sent off many Tottenham players, and Tottenham would have lost the title because of probably Mark Clattenburg. If I'd done my job properly, people would have still supported us, but the abuse I would have took. I've decided to manage the game the way but we're allowed to manage. Yeah. But you've got now a situation where UEFA try and centralise all of the federation, all of the leagues around Europe to try and have a consistent approach. Yeah. And they have their thoughts. They punish handball, and I know this because I watch Champions League. They punish handball a lot more than we do in the Premier League. They're also very strong on challenges. Yeah. So, for example, Premier League, and you would go and speak to your star players that come to your clubs. They'll say one thing: the Premier League is brutal because referees don't protect us, and that's because the referees allow a lot more than they do in other competitions.
Yeah,
all time on that one. Well done. Well debated, everybody. Brilliantly done. So there we have it, 20 football fans up against Mark Clattenburg. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. I think everybody here has enjoyed it. But before I send you off,
thank you.
Where can people at home check out some of the stuff you're on?
Yeah, I'm currently doing a podcast called Whistleblowers, which debates football. We have a journalist, we have myself, and we have a showbiz journalist. So we have it from different angles. So we have the on the field, the journalists with the managers, but we also have what the players used to do off the field. So it's a great little mixture, and you can get it on the Daily Mail and do it on watch it on YouTube.
Amazing. Well, without further ado, Mark, where is it?
Yeah, blow your whistle. Oh,
you're off.